What is your current job and where do you work?
Yeah, so I currently work at Facebook Messenger. So on the design team, I'm a content designer, which means I'm responsible for thinking about the user experience and how people are going to get through our product. And like I said, right now I'm working on Messenger. So we're working on things like chat messaging and video calling within Messenger.
Hang on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Mozambique in Southern Africa. I spent most of my childhood there, and then I went to university in the US to study advertising design. So in that course, we did a mixture of copywriting classes and more like graphic design classes. And so from there I went, so actually my first job was in copywriting at a digital advertising agency. And I worked on like digital campaigns, so that could be YouTube videos or social media campaigns on Instagram, Facebook. And I worked on a client called Call of Duty. I don't know if some of you have played the game. So that was interesting because I'm not really into video games myself, but I learned a lot about a different world. And yeah, so that's how I got into kind of the digital world, I think.
Can I just ask you to explain what copywriting is, please? Because I'm not sure if you...
Oh, sure. Yes. So in advertising, traditionally you have a creative team, and in the creative team there'll be an art director who thinks about the visuals. So if it's, for example, a TV spot or a video for TV, like a classic advert, they might think about the composition of the scene and what it's going to look like, and then the copywriter, which is what was my role, will think about the script and telling the story and do all the writings. Or in another example, even just like a ad that's a billboard or a poster, the art director might think about the layout and the visuals, and I might think about the slogan or what's written there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What got you interested in your working job?
Yeah, so I think while I was at the digital agency, I was working on advertising campaigns, but then I was also doing some things like website content. And I also did a project for an Alexa skill, which means, so you can talk to Alexa, and there's almost like different apps on Alexa that you can download and engage with. So I was essentially writing what Alexa would say back to a person for one of these apps. So that got me really interested in the product side of things. So instead of the advertising, I was thinking, oh wow, like I could write for a digital product, which will last longer than an advert, and people will use, and that was really exciting to me. And even websites, that it's kind of like product writing, because you might go on a website and find what you're looking for and use it to access a service. So that's what I became interested in. So I started trying to do more of those kinds of projects. And then eventually I started looking for jobs that were solely in that area and specifically in that area.
What was your job like as a content designer, and what skills and attributes do you need to succeed in your job?
Yeah, so as a content designer, there's a lot of collaboration that happens. So I work with product designers who are more visual, so kind of parallel to a copywriter and an art director. In my role now and in a product team, you'll have a content designer and a product designer. And again, it's a similar split of I might be focusing more on words and messaging, and they might be focusing more on visuals. So I work very closely with them. I work very closely with researchers so that we can like test the products that we're building and get feedback and understand how different people are using the products. And then, of course, I work closely with engineers who are actually coding the stuff, because I definitely can't do that. So they're really important. And so, yeah, skills, I think one of the biggest ones is just being able to build different relationships and work together with people, because it takes quite a big team to get something, especially, you know, like a product like Messenger that's going to so many people. It takes a big team to get that up and working. So I think being able to, yeah, just collaborate with people and kind of speak their language, even if you are not necessarily an expert in their role, right? You don't have to be like, I could never be an engineer, but I have to sort of learn some of their language so that we can communicate and work together on projects. And also, I think, you know, curiosity and listening and empathy has been really important, because in my role, I'm really supposed to advocate for the people using the product. So I have to think about how so many people might, you know, feel when they use the product, or how they might interact with it, and how they might react to different things that we put in there. So you have to be able to kind of understand how they might be feeling and want to help them have the best experience.
Are there any Black leaders in your field or other walks of life who have inspired you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely don't think there's enough Black leaders in my field yet. At Facebook specifically, we have quite a big, strong community. But yeah, at the leadership level, I think there's still more work to do. But I do really appreciate the community that we have there. It's very supportive. We try to, you know, talk often and have events often where we can kind of share experience and support. But I think when I think of other people that have inspired me, it's a lot of writers, because I really like stories and how people manage to kind of express things, especially through writing. So I think some classic ones like Chimamanda Adichie and Bernardine Evaristo. I just think they write so beautifully, and they show such a empathy for people from all different backgrounds and places.
As a Black person in your field, have you faced any challenges?
For sure, yeah. I think it's still quite often that I'm the only Black person in the room, like in a meeting or on a project, and that has definitely been challenging sometimes. And you know, in the past year, it's come up a lot where I think it's been on my mind a lot more as well. And I also miss seeing, like I mentioned, some of that representation at leadership level. Yeah, so there's definitely challenges, but again, like I have found communities in different places that I've been able to find support through that for my work life as well as my personal life. So.
What advice would you give to a young person who's interested in a job or joining the sector?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing about my role, content design, is that you can get there through a lot of different avenues, especially because it's quite a new field. So I don't know actually if there's specific courses in university or in other sort of institutes that teach content design, and all the content designers I know have come from different places, but I think that's what makes it really interesting. So for example, people have formerly been journalists or copywriters like me, or have studied like what's it called, psychology, or marketing, or all sorts of different things. But I think what we have in common is being really interested in people, and how people sort of work and think, because that helps us to think about how we design, and how we make products. So I think the advice I would give is to always think like people first, to be interested in like how humans speak and communicate and interact, and to have empathy for people, and to think about, as someone who's designing for someone else, you can think about your own experience, but you have to expand that and think about other people's experience too, to be able to kind of make something that can work for a lot of different people. One example actually that I really like is around making products more accessible to people with disabilities, for example, and so something like having captions on the screen. I think that was originally designed for deaf people, but then everyone sometimes uses them. Whether you're trying to watch something quietly and you just want to put the captions on so you don't have to turn the volume up, it becomes actually something that can be that can benefit everyone.
What's the best part about your job?
Best part about my job, I think, when we achieved the thing that we set out to achieve, or when we like made the product, and it's out there and people are using it, and especially now working on Messenger, it's something that quite a lot of my friends and family uses. So it's just exciting when they tell me that they used a certain feature, or they saw something that I have actually worked on. So I think that's exciting. I also really like working in a team and collaborating on things with other people, and with people that just know something completely different to me, like the engineers, for example. They're so smart and I could never do what they do, but it's so cool to be able to come up with something together and figure out how it's going to work.
That's the last question.
Yeah.
I'm sure those engineers must be thinking that they couldn't do what you do though as well.
Well, I hope so that I can keep my job. But it's interesting with content. Like, it seems simple, and sometimes it is, because you're just writing in a way that people will understand and it's human language. But then you can get really into the nitty-gritty, like thinking about, will this word or phrase actually translate into different languages so that people around the world can understand it, or will it unintentionally have different meanings in different languages? So there's kind of that to think about, and also just how people interpret things differently, and what they might take away from your messaging. So it gets interesting.